Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review On the Record. And this is the new documentary from HBO Max. And I'm not going to get into HBO Max and my thoughts on HBO Max in this video because I think that'd be unfair to this really important documentary. But might talk about my thoughts on HBO Max on the tube once I actually finish one of the shows that I've watched on it. But this documentary, directed by Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering, is a very, very important documentary because it sheds a light on big issues of sexual harassment, the whole Me Too movement, and who that really entails. And this is really told from the perspective of someone who is a woman of color, women of color. And it's talking about the accusers of Russell Simmons, this big music producer, and really if it was just about the situation and the facts of the story, I'd be really concerned about the fact that it really is only from one perspective. Well, that's not fair. It's from multiple women's perspectives, but you don't get the other side of the story. You don't really hear from Russell Simmons or anything like that. But this documentary isn't just about trying to tell this particular story. It's about a broader sense of a group of women trying to find empowerment where they feel like their voice is heard. And Drew Dixon is one of the big accusers in this documentary that they really focus on her the most. And you don't just get to see her in the context of this situation. They spend time building up who Russell Simmons is, they spend time building up who Drew Dixon is, and the culture around rap music and hip-hop, and how that came into play in terms of what happened. And what happened is absolutely awful. And it's interesting perspective coming from myself watching this, a white man, and feeling very strongly for the struggles that these women talk about in this documentary, because I don't know that. It's like I've never experienced that, being like you trying to say something and automatically people are going to discredit you just from your gender and from the color of your skin. And I really appreciated how this documentary really went deeper into Drew Dixon's life and the struggle she had. It goes a step further. You see how her life, specifically from her perspective, has changed because not only because of this experience, but the aftermath of this experience and the journey that she goes on as a person and her growth and the steps she makes in her own life separate from this situation and how she's trying to find herself. And I thought it was interesting because the documentary kept going after they stopped talking about this particular situation with Russell Simmons, and they bring in all these other women talking about their situations with Russell Simmons. But then it goes a step further, a little bit more in this documentary, and you really get to dig into Drew Dixon as a person and the choices she makes in her own life and trying to grow. So really it's about these women and growth and where they want to be in their own lives. And I think that makes this a little more special than just a by the numbers, here's some information, because it's staged very much like a traditional documentary of a bunch of people are getting interviewed, and towards the end it kind of goes beyond that setup and you're kind of in their lives a little bit more. And I feel like you get a more of emotional connection by that point, but honestly, up through this whole documentary, it's hard to watch. And it should be, because this kind of stuff is horrible. And listening to their stories in graphic detail, and sometimes it's just like listening to these stories, it's so hard to believe that somebody can do such terrible things to people. And after a while, it's like it should feel that way. And it's kind of sad that it's not feeling that way anymore because this happens so often. But I think this is a really important documentary, and I think it's a nice thing for them to drop with HBO Max they're not really pushing their original content a whole lot. This is the only original film that they've released so far. And obviously everybody's talking about instead the Snyder cut of Justice League being the next big film coming out originally for HBO Max. And obviously their big catalog, but this is something you shouldn't skip over. Go check out On the Record. It's an important documentary. Comment. Let's talk about it, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.